The phone buzzed just as the sunlight slid across my desk, one sharp vibration against the marble that broke the quiet hum of my office. I glanced down, half expecting another client update. Instead, it was a family group chat notification. I hadn't muted that group. Maybe part of me still wanted to feel connected. But the message on the screen froze me. Step away, it's best for all of us. From Ethan, my husband. For a few seconds, I just stared. My reflection looked back at me in the dark screen, calm, composed, but with eyes that didn't match the smile I wore for everyone else. Then came the next ping. A heart reaction. From Uncle Gary. The same uncle who'd once said I was too opinionated for a family woman. My throat tightened, but my hands didn't shake this time. I just placed the phone back on the desk, next to the stack of contracts I'd signed this morning, contracts that Ethan didn't even know existed. Funny, isn't it? How people love deciding what's best for you when they have no idea who you've become. Outside my window, the city stretched in glass and silver light, alive, busy, indifferent. Inside, I sat in silence, my pulse steady. Because if Ethan wanted me to step away, maybe it was time he learned what I'd been building while he was busy texting heartless goodbyes. And just like that, the past, the one I thought I'd buried, began to claw its way back. 3 years ago, I wasn't Ava Reynolds, marketing director of Horizon Studios. I was just Ava, the girl who believed love could fix everything. Ethan and I had met in college. He had that quiet charm that made people lean in when he spoke. I used to call him my calm in chaos. And for a while, he was. We got married young, full of promises and empty bank accounts. His family welcomed me with polite smiles that never reached their eyes. Especially Uncle Gary, the kind of man who thought career women forgot their place. I still remember the first Thanksgiving dinner after our wedding. I had just gotten a promotion at the firm, and when I mentioned it, Gary smirked over his glass and said, "That's cute, Ava. But maybe focus on giving Ethan a family first, huh?" Everyone laughed. Even Ethan softly, but I heard it. Something inside me wilted that night. It only got worse from there. Ethan's career stalled, and mine took off. Suddenly, my late nights weren't dedicated. They were disrespectful. His mother whispered that I made him feel small. He didn't deny it. The fights grew sharper, the silences longer. I still tried. Cooked dinners, smiled at family gatherings, pretended I didn't see the disappointment in their glances. Until that one evening. We were hosting a small family get-together. I overheard Ethan talking to Gary in the kitchen, their voices low but clear enough. "Gary, you gotta get control back, son. Women like her, they forget who they married." "Ethan, I know. She's just so different now." "Gary, then remind her who's in charge." My stomach turned cold. I walked in, holding the dessert tray, and set it down without a word. Their faces paled. That night I didn't shout, didn't cry. I went to our bedroom, took off the gold bracelet my mother had given me, engraved with tiny letters. "Hold your ground." I placed it on the nightstand, looked at myself in the mirror, and whispered, "Not tonight. Not anymore." The next morning, I packed a single suitcase, left my wedding ring on the counter, and walked out. No explanations. No tears. Just silence, the kind that meant it's over. They called it running away. But to me, it was the first step towards standing still, on my own ground. When I left Ethan, I didn't have a plan. Just a one-bedroom apartment in a part of the city where streetlights flickered more than they glowed, and a resume that suddenly felt like a lifeline. The first few weeks were brutal, the kind of silence that doesn't comfort, just reminds you you're alone. I worked 2 freelance jobs, slept on a second-hand couch, and ate cereal for dinner more nights than I care to admit. But in the middle of that chaos, something shifted. One evening, while scrolling job boards, I stumbled across a listing for an entry-level creative strategist role at a boutique marketing agency. I almost didn't apply. The salary was laughable, but the tagline caught me. "We don't hire perfect people. We hire fighters." That line felt like oxygen. The next day, I met Marilyn Cooper, the agency's founder, a woman in her 50s with silver hair, sharp eyes, and the kind of presence that filled a room without raising her voice. She asked about my past, and for the first time, I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her everything: the marriage, the walkout, the empty apartment. She listened, nodded once, and said, "Good. Pain makes the best storytellers. You're hired." Under Marilyn, I learned how to turn brands into emotions, how to speak to hearts instead of wallets. She pushed me hard, but she believed in me harder. Months turned into years. I rose fast: strategist, senior consultant, lead director. Every win felt like a quiet rebellion against every voice that once said I couldn't. My first real victory came when one of my campaigns went viral, a rebrand for a small wellness company that skyrocketed overnight. The CEO sent flowers. Marilyn sent coffee and a note. "Still holding your ground?" I smiled so hard it hurt. But even as my world expanded, I stayed off social media. My family still thought I was barely scraping by. Doing something in marketing was all they knew. I kept it that way. Not out of spite, but out of peace. Then last year, Marilyn retired and handed me the reins. Horizon Studios, her legacy, became mine. I bought an office overlooking the river, filled it with everything that reminded me of who I used to be: plants, notebooks, and a framed photo of my mother's bracelet. Every morning, I touch the glass over those engraved words: "Hold your ground." It reminds me that I didn't just survive, I rebuilt. Still, I never looked back. Not at Ethan. Not at Gary. Not at the family group that had gone quiet after my disappearance. Until today. Until that text. Until Ethan's message, cold, final, public, pinged on my phone like a reminder that even ghosts can find you when you least expect them. I wasn't sure what he meant by "step away." But something in me smiled at the irony. Because I already had. Years ago. And the place I'd stepped into was a world he could never imagine. The text hadn't even cooled on my screen when my assistant, Jordan, poked his head through the door. Ava? There's a group of people downstairs asking for you." I looked up from the window. Did they give names? He hesitated. "Ethan Reynolds. And a few others. They said they're family." For a second, my heart stalled, that old reflex, like muscle memory of a life I'd outgrown. Then calm. The kind that comes after years of being underestimated. "Send them up," I said quietly. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened, and there they were: Ethan, his mother, and Uncle Gary in his signature leather jacket, smirking like time had never moved. Ethan looked older, a little heavier, the confidence in his eyes now cracked around the edges. "Nice place," he muttered, stepping into the glass-walled office. "Didn't expect you to be here." I smiled lightly, gesturing toward the seating area. "I get that a lot." They sat awkwardly, eyes scanning the room, the city skyline outside, the gold lettering on the glass door. "Ava Reynolds, Chief Executive Officer, Horizon Studios." Ethan's face paled. You're the CEO?" I corrected, settling across from them. "Now I'm majority owner." Silence stretched like static. Even Uncle Gary looked uncertain for the first time. He cleared his throat. "Well, look at you. Guess leaving paid off, huh?" There was that old mocking tone again, half pride, half poison. I leaned back, crossing my legs. "It did. But I didn't leave for money, Gary. I left for air." Ethan's mother flinched, but Ethan only looked down. He held his phone tightly. Maybe the same one he'd used to send that family message just an hour ago. "So," I continued softly, "what brings you all here? It's been, 3 years?" Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "We heard you were involved with Horizon. We didn't know it was you when we reached out for that campaign proposal. My mom thought it'd be good for our family business." I blinked. "Wait. Your family's new company, the one bidding for the brand collaboration?" He nodded. "Yeah. We thought it'd help us rebuild. Things haven't exactly been great since you left." The irony almost made me laugh. They had unknowingly pitched their comeback campaign to me, the woman they'd told to step away. I stood and walked toward the window, watching the reflection of their faces behind me. "You know," I said, "when I first read that text this morning, I thought it was just another attempt to shut me out. But now maybe it was fate's little setup. Gary scoffed. So, what, you're not gonna help? You think you're better than us now? I turned, my voice calm but sharp enough to cut the air.
No, Gary.
I just finally know I don't need your approval to exist. The silence that followed was heavy, almost sacred. I walked to my desk, picked up the framed bracelet photo, and placed it between us. My mother gave me this before she passed. She told me to hold my ground, even when no one else believed in it. So I did. Ethan looked up, eyes tired. Ava, I never meant to. Don't, I interrupted gently. You meant every word. You just didn't expect me to survive them. He swallowed hard. Will you at least consider helping us? We're out of options. I paused, looking at him, the man who once told me I made him feel small. Now he sat in front of me, shoulders caved, waiting for mercy. And maybe once I would have given it. But not anymore. You'll get an answer, I said finally. But not today. My team will review your proposal like any other client. I smiled faintly. No special treatment. They stood slowly, unsure whether to thank me or apologize. When the door closed behind them, the air felt lighter, like the past had finally exhaled. I walked back to my window, city lights flickering below, and whispered to my reflection. Step away, he said. So I did. And look how far that step took me. The next morning, my office felt strangely still, like the city outside was waiting to see what I'd do. Jordan walked in with a folder. The Reynolds proposal is on your desk, he said, eyes flicking up curiously. Want me to shred it? I smiled faintly.
No.
I'll read it. I waited until everyone left for lunch before opening it. Inside were plans for a small family-owned home decor brand. An honest idea, underfunded but hopeful. Ethan's handwriting was still the same, neat, precise, too careful. At the end, he'd added a note. If you decide to work with us, I'll understand if it's under your terms. Just thank you for even considering it. For the first time in years, I felt something other than anger, not forgiveness exactly, but recognition. He'd finally learned what humility looked like. Still, power wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about choice. I scheduled a meeting for Friday and sent the invite to Ethan, his mother, and Uncle Gary. When they arrived, I made sure to keep it professional, no bitterness, no sharp edges. Just Ava, the woman they never expected to see again. Before we begin, I said, standing by the window, I need to be clear about something. If we work together, it'll be under conditions. Gary rolled his eyes. Of course. I ignored him. 1. I began. Your company must publicly pledge to hire women in leadership roles. Real ones, not token titles. You'll send me the proof every quarter. Ethan nodded quietly. 2. I continued. You'll donate 10% of your launch profits to women's shelters in the city. No PR, no press. Just help quietly. Ethan's mother looked down at her hands, blinking back tears. And 3, I said finally, you'll remove my name from the family group chat. That one made Gary laugh. That's your big demand? I smiled.
No.
That's my closure. The room went silent again, heavy, thoughtful. Then Ethan spoke, voice soft. We'll do it. All of it. Something inside me loosened. Not satisfaction, but peace. I wasn't doing this to make them small. I was doing it to make myself whole. When they left, Ethan paused by the door. You really did it, Ava, he said quietly. You built something beautiful. I met his eyes.
No, Ethan.
I became something beautiful. He gave a slow nod and walked away, shoulders lighter than before. Gary didn't say a word, just gave me one last unreadable look before disappearing down the hall. I turned toward my window again, watching the late sunlight catch the river. For years, I'd thought strength meant walking away. Now I realized it also meant knowing when to open the door, not for them, but for closure. That night, as I shut down my computer, my phone buzzed once more. A new message from the family group. Ethan had removed me. And underneath it, a single heart reaction from Gary. This time I smiled. because for once it didn't sting. It just meant they finally understood what stepping away truly meant. The office was quiet again. The hum of the air conditioner and the soft clicking of my keyboard felt like a gentle heartbeat. Steady, reliable, mine. I poured myself a cup of coffee, inhaling the familiar aroma that had become my morning ritual, and looked at the small framed photo on my desk. My mother's bracelet, the words, "Hold your ground," glinting in the morning sun. It had been my talisman through every lonely night, every uncertain step, every heartache. And now, it wasn't just a reminder of survival, it was proof of growth, of strength earned, of peace achieved. I thought about Ethan, about Gary, about the others who had once defined the borders of my world. They were learning, slowly, painfully, that their actions had consequences. But more importantly, that my life was no longer theirs to shape. I smiled softly at the thought. Helping them wasn't about power, it was about compassion paired with boundaries. I could guide them toward their own growth without letting them step over mine. I walked over to the window, feeling the gentle breeze brush against my face, and looked at the city below. Every light reflected a story, a struggle, a dream. Mine had been one of the quietest, the most solitary, yet it had turned into the brightest. Jordan poked his head in. "Your mother would be proud, Ava." I turned, eyes glistening just a little, and nodded. "She already is. Every day, she's been proud." And in that moment, I realized I didn't need anyone else's validation. Not from Ethan, not from Uncle Gary, not even from the world. I had built my own life, shaped by my hands, my choices, my resilience. I glanced back at the bracelet one last time, touching it gently. "Thanks, Mom," I whispered, "for teaching me to hold my ground." "I did, and I'll keep doing it." The phone buzzed with a notification, but I ignored it. The past had called. I had answered. Now it was time to live fully in the present. I took a deep breath, letting the city's hum fill me, and thought. He told me to step away.
So I did.
And in stepping away, I finally found the ground that was truly mine. The sun slipped lower behind the skyline, painting the office in warm gold. I turned back to my work, calm, unstoppable, and free.